Hi guys, welcome to another lesson within the playlist of Algebra 1. We're on lesson 3 now. Just a wee reminder again over here, within Algebra 1 there's 4 lessons and we're on lesson 3. So if you're watching this, it might be best to go back to lesson 1 and 2 first. Okay, lesson 3 is on forming expressions. So let's get started. Okay, so just to revise lesson 2, how would you simplify this expression? So I'm going to look at the numbers first. I'm going to flash them up in a different colour. So if I was to multiply these numbers together, what would I get? Now remember, there is a number in front of the last term here. There's a coefficient of 1. The number in front of a variable is called a coefficient, and the coefficient of this one is 1. When it's 1 of something, we don't really need to write it because it doesn't change the answer. If I did 5, multiplied by 6 multiplied by 2, the answer is 60. If I multiply that by 1, the answer is still 60. So that part is 60. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Let's look at the A's. Now remember from previous lessons, lesson 2, you know what to do. You know what the indices rules are when you have powers here. You add the indices together. So you're going to do the power of 2, the power of 4. This one, remember, doesn't look like it's got a power, but it's got a power of 1 and then a power of 6. So if I add all them together, 4, 5, 6, 7, 13. This is a to the power of 13. Let's move on. We're going to look at the B's again. You're going to add your powers together. So you've got 3 here. This is a 1, another 3, and another 7. So it's B to the power of 14. And then we're going to look at the C's. The C's got a power of 1 here, then 2, then 4, then 8. So 8. So C to the power of 15. Okay, and that's your final answer. Double check it on the next slide. Yep, we've got it right. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so this is what we're doing today. We're forming expressions. So let's just read these sentences and try and form an expression from it. So the first one here, we're going to do this one here, 4 more than a number. Now we do not know what that number is. Remember what we do in algebra is we're going to use a variable. Remember what a variable is? It can be any letter, and the number that stands for can change from question to question. I'm going to use X. Remember the way I write an X. So that's my number, and it's 4 more than that number. So 4 more means I'm going to add 4. So my expression would be X plus 4. Sorry, that. There we go. Oh, that made nice 4. Next one, a number adds 6. Again, I'm going to use the variable X, and I'm going to add 6 to it, and that's my expression. Next one, a number subtract 10. So I'm going to use X again, and I'm going to subtract 10 from it. Next one, a number add 10, so it's going to be X, add 10, and then 8 subtract a number. So just be careful with that when you're starting with 8 and you're subtracting a number. You don't know what that number is. I've been using X for these. It's going to be 8 subtract X. Okay, let's move on. Okay, just more examples. So this first one here, 4 lots of a number. 4 lots of a number, what does that mean? So if we give me the example, I've got here 4 lots of 5. 4 lots of something means to multiply, but multiplying is just repeated addition. So if I take my 5, add my 5, add my 5, add my 5, it's the same as 4 lots of 5, which is the same as 4 multiplied by 5. So 4 lots of a number, again, I'll use the variable X here. So 4 lots of it would be 4 multiplied by X. And we know from previous lessons we don't have to write that multiplication sign in the middle there. That just becomes 4x. A number multiplied by 5, we can go straight to 5x. A number multiplied by 12, 12x. A multiplied by B, again from previous lessons, you know how to write this now, AB. 7a multiplied by b would be 7ab. And 2a multiplied by 2b, again, previous lessons, 2 times 2 multiplied by 2, sorry, is 4. And a multiplied by b is ab, so it's 4ab. Well done, let's move on. Okay, just some more examples. Formula expresses, so a number divided by 5. So again, you don't know what that number is, we're going to use the variable x. X divided by 5. Now, you could write it like this here. That's the divide sign, isn't it? But in algebra, we usually write divide calculations like a fraction. So we would write it like this, x divided by 5. Next one, a number divided by 6, so it would be x divided by 6. And then 6 divided by a number, so 6 on top, because that's been divided into 6 divided by a number, 6 divided by x. Okay, let's move on. Okay, again, I'm going to do my turn, your turn. So my turn, multiply n by 3, so this first one here, and then add 4. So you know n multiplied by 3, and then I'm going to add 4. But if I look at that first part, you know how to write that. You know that n multiplied by 3 is the same as 3n. So it would just be 3n, add 4. That would be my final expression. Next one. Add 4 to n, then multiply your answer by 3. Okay, so you're starting with n, you're adding 4 to it, and then I want to multiply that answer by 3, so I need to do this part first, and then I want to multiply it by 3. Again, that multiplication sign doesn't have to be there. You can put the 3 on the outside of the brackets, like this. Okay, next part, subtract 9 from n, so you're starting with n, you're subtracting 9 from it, and then multiply your whole answer by a half. Again, this part has to be done first, and then I would multiply all of it by a half. Okay, so just think about what I've done there. Pause the video now, because I'm about to flash up the answers to your turn, so pause it now. Okay guys, there's your answers just flashed up there, so just to mark your work. Let's move on. Pause it if you need to mark it. Okay, very similar. So my turn, your turn. So multiply n by n, and then multiply your answer by 6. So start off n, multiply by n, and then I want to multiply my answer by 6. Now again, from previous videos, you know n multiplied by n is n squared. If I multiply by that by 6, I would write the number first, it would be 6n squared. Next one, multiply n by n, and then add 8. Divide the whole expression by 2. Okay, now I can write that nicer. It would be n squared plus 8, all divided by 2. Next part, multiply n by 4. So I'm just going to go straight to your 4n. Then add 8, add on 8, and divide the whole expression by 2. That's very important. The whole expression has been divided by 2, so you've got a much longer line there when you were making your fraction. That can actually be simplified. I don't want to go into this at the moment because you've not done brackets yet with this top part. But I could take out a common factor there and I could simplify that further, but I'm not going to do that at the moment because we've not done it in these lessons. Again, pause now. I'm about to flash up the answer, so pause it now for me. Okay, guys, that's the answers flashed up. Your side was actually a little bit harder than my side. Can I just look at the second one here? This would put a little blue sign. It says multiply n by 6 and square your answer. Means times it by itself. If I wrote this, a lot of people would maybe write this answer. You're only squaring the n. All of it needs to be squared. So in order to ensure all of it is squared, that's why you put a bracket around all of it to square it all. And again, this last one here, it can be simplified further, but I've not done this in the series of lessons, so I'm going to leave it like that for the moment. Let's move on. Okay, I just really want to make it clear how these expressions are different. If I start with a variable and talk about what's happened to that variable, you'll maybe see how they are different. So put my little red dot here. So we're going to start with this variable n. So you've got n, what's happening to the n? You are adding 4 to it, and then you are dividing by the 2. Okay, so the order is very important. You'll have heard the expression bod mass or bit mass. The order in mass is very important. So for the n, you're adding 4 to it, then you're dividing by 2. This expression here looks quite similar. So if I start with the n, what's happening to the n? I've got n. I am dividing that n by 2, and then I'm adding 4. So very, very different. And that will kind of come into play when we do solving equations further down. That's how I would write those expressions there. Okay, I was going to do a little bit of substitution to show you how they are different, but I might leave that just now because we've not done substitution. That's our next lesson. Okay, let's move on. And again, very similar here. So my variable here is n. What's happening to that n? Remember, there's a 4 here. What's in the middle of it? Multiplication sign. So you've got your n, you're multiplying by 4, and then you're adding your 3 on. Okay? But with this one here, what's happening? You've got your variable n, you're adding your 3 first, which you must do the brackets first, and then you're multiplying that answer by 4. So again, very, very different. So that's how I would write those expressions. Okay, let's do this one together. Okay, so my age is C. Write expressions for the ages of all my family if my brother is 3 years older than me. So similar to what we've been doing. So you're going to start with your age, which is C. So we don't know what your age is. Just changed it right there. Nope. So C. And my brother is 4 years older than me. So it's going to be C add 4. My sister is 3 years younger than me. So again, you're starting with your age of C. And your sister's 3 years younger. So subtract 3. My mum is double my age. So to double something that's the same as multiplying by 2. So it'd be C multiplied by 2, which is the same as 2C. My dad is 2 years older than my mum. So that's the expression for mum. And your dad is 2 years older than her. So it's going to be 2C plus 2. My granny is 4 times my age. So again, my age is C. 4 times. So multiplied by 4. So I would write it like 4C. And my papa is twice my dad's age. So where's my dad's age? My dad's age is here. So that whole expression, papa is twice that age. So you're going to write what age your dad was. And you're going to multiply it by 2. You know what to do now. That 2 should go at the beginning of the brackets. Okay, that's us. Let's move on. Just some real life questions. So pens cost 10p. Write an expression for x pens. So you're going to multiply that x and that 10p together. I would miss out the p because it could make things a little bit more complicated because that would look like a variable. So I would just write it like 10x. Okay. Next one, rulers cost 20p. Write an expression for y rulers. So that one's just going to be 20y. And pens cost 10p, rulers cost 20p. Find an expression for the total cost of X pens and Y rulers. So you've kind of got the answer. So you've got that one, add that one there. So you're just going to write 10x plus 20y. You remember from lesson 1 in this playlist that you can't add together different like terms. You can't add x's and y's together. Okay, let's move on. Okay, we read live question here. So taxi company charged £3 per kilometre driven plus a fee of £4 for hiring the taxi. Write an expression to show the cost of hiring a taxi. Now, what's the variable here? What's the thing that changes? And that's how many kilometres is driven in each journey. So one person might go from A to B and it might be 5 kilometres, somebody else might be 10 kilometres. So that's the thing that's going to change. That's the thing that's going to vary. So that's where I want to put my variable. So because it's kilometres, it might be nice just to call it K. That's the variable I'm going to use. The taxi company charges £3 per kilometre. So we're going to multiply the two together. You know at this point that we would be writing 3k. Plus, which really means add a fee of £4 for hiring a taxi. Write an expression. So 3k plus your 4. And that's your final expression. Next slide. Okay, 4 bakers bake all morning. Jenny bakes X cakes, Louise bakes 5 fewer, Tommy bakes twice as many as Louise, Cara bakes half as many as Louise. Write an expression for how many cakes each person makes. Okay, so Jenny, she makes X cakes, so that's easy. Just X, nothing happens. Louise, she bakes 5 fewer than Jenny, so 5 less than Jenny. So it's going to be X subtract 5. Tommy, he bakes twice as many as Louise. So if I take Louise's expression, twice as many means multiply by 2. So I'm going to take that expression and I'm going to multiply it by 2. Cara, again guys, here you could multiply this expression out, but I'm not done brackets with you, so I'm going to leave it like that at the moment. Cara bakes half as many as Louise. So remember where Louise's expression is this one here. So you're going to take Louise's expression and you are going to half it. X minus 5, all divided by 2. Okay, and that's the expressions for all the bakers. Next slide. Okay, this is just really your exit question here. So what's the total length of all the lines in the diagram? So I mean all the black lines, all these black lines here. So these black lines, what's the length of all of these lines? All these black lines. And then another question, write an expression for the area of this rectangle. Remember what you do when you're finding the area of a rectangle. It's going to be your full length times your breadth. So I'm going to just leave it there and let you think about that, and please leave me a little comment with your answer. Thanks for watching. Thank you. Bye now.